What if I told you there's a star?
Practically on our galactic doorstep.
Just 6 light years away?
That's been shrouded in planetary mystery for decades.
And what if this star
Barnard star
turned out to be even more interesting than we thought?
Well,
Buckle up.
because today we're taking a deep dive into the latest findings from the Barnard star system.
And trust me,
You are not going to want to miss this.
it's one of those stories.
That reminds us that astronomy is anything but static.
It's constantly evolving with each new observation.
Okay, so let's set the stage here.
Barnard star.
It's a red dwarf star.
What comes to mind when you think red dwarf?
And why is it significant in this whole planet hunting game?
Think of it like this.
If our sun is the energetic life of the party,
A red dwarf is its quieter.
cooler cousin,
They're much smaller and less massive than stars like our sun,
and they burn their fuel much more slowly.
which means they have incredibly long lifespans.
And here's where it gets really interesting for planet hunters like us,
Because they're cooler.
the habitable zone.
That sweet spot where temperatures might be just right for liquid water on a planet's surface,
Is much closer in
so closer to a red dwarf star.
than planets in the habitable zone are to our own sun.
Exactly.
Like scoot your chair up close to the fireplace, kind of close.
Exactly.
And this has some really intriguing implications for the search for life beyond Earth.
Which we can unpack a bit later.
But for now, just keep in mind that this close-in habitable zone around red dwarfs is a key piece of the puzzle.
Okay, noted.
Now, Barnard's star has been a source of fascination for astronomers for ages, right?
There were those early whispers about planets back in the 1960s.
Did those pan out?
What sparked that initial wave of excitement?
It really was more of a whisper.
Astronomically speaking,
Back then, they were pushing the limits of what was detectable,
astronomers thought they were seeing tiny wobbles in the star's movement.
like a subtle gravitational dance,
The thought was that a massive Jupiter-sized planet
or maybe even a whole entourage of planets.
would be causing this wobble.
And while those early observations didn't quite pan out,
They planted the seed for decades of research and speculation.
and it wasn't just scientists who got caught up in the mystery.
Barnard star popped up in all sorts of science fiction.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy
The Garden of Rama,
even became the target for Project Daedalus.
this theoretical interstellar spacecraft,
There's something about the idea of a nearby star system
potentially harboring planets.
that captures the imagination
It taps into that very human desire to explore.
to see what else is out there.
Absolutely.
And speaking of exploring,
Fast forward to today,
and we've got some solid confirmation that Barnard's star is even more intriguing than we imagined.
astronomers using the Very Large Telescope in Chile have officially confirmed the existence of a planet orbiting Barnard's star,
Barnard's star B.
or Barnard's B for short,
It's a pretty big deal.
considering how difficult it is to detect these smaller planets,
Barnard's B is about half the mass of Venus.
making it a sub-Earth mass planet,
Wow, that's incredibly small.
especially when you consider the sheer scale of what we're talking about.
A planet orbiting a star light years away.
How do they even begin to find something that small at such an incredible distance?
It's a testament to the incredible precision of modern astronomical instruments.
And the ingenuity of the astronomers using them.
They use a technique called the radial velocity method.
Essentially, they're looking for tiny wobbles in a star's movement caused by the gravitational pull of an orbiting planet.
So it's like those planets are playing a cosmic game of tug-of-war with their star.
And astronomers are trying to detect the subtle back-and-forth motions.
Exactly.
Imagine you're standing on the side of a road.
And an ambulance races past you.
As the ambulance approaches, the siren sounds higher-pitched, right?
Yeah, everyone's experienced that.
It's like the sound waves themselves are getting squished or stretched depending on whether the sound is moving toward or away from you. And we can actually observe a similar effect with light waves.
As a star moves slightly closer to us,
Its light waves get compressed.
shifting slightly towards the bluer end of the spectrum,
As it moves slightly away, the light waves stretch.
shifting towards the redder end.
This is called the Doppler shift.
Okay, so by carefully analyzing the light coming from a star,
Astronomers can detect these minute shifts caused by the gravitational pull of an orbiting planet,
and from that they can not only confirm the planet's existence,
but also estimate its mass and how long it takes to orbit its star.
you've got it.
And in the case of Barnard's B,
They've discovered that it's quite a speed demon.
whipping around its star in just 3.15 Earth days.
A year and 3 days.
Talk about a quick trip around the sun
Or should we say
on Barnard's star.
But being that close to its star must mean things are pretty toasty on Barnard's B, right?
You could say that.
The estimated surface temperature on Barnard's B is a scorching 260 degrees Fahrenheit.
So not exactly a prime location for a beach vacation.
Yeah, I think I'll pack my parka for this trip.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Even though Barnard's B is pretty far outside the habitable zone,
Its discovery has some pretty big implications for our understanding of planetary systems around red dwarf stars.
and I bet you're just dying to tell me all about it.
But we're going to have to take a quick break.
Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back to dive deeper into the mysteries of Barnard's star.
All right, so before the break, we were talking about how even though Barnard's B is a bit too toasty for life, as we know, its discovery still has some major implications for the search for life beyond Earth. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely.
Remember how we talked about red dwarfs being the most common type of star in the Milky Way?
Well, if they're also likely to have rocky planets like Barnard's B,
And we're finding more and more evidence that they are.
then the chances of finding another world that could support life just skyrocketed.
That's mind-blowing.
It's like suddenly realizing that the neighborhood you thought you knew was actually hiding a whole bunch of secret houses.
It really is.
And the story gets even more fascinating.
Because as you may recall,
This wasn't the first time astronomers thought they had found a planet around Barnard's star.
you're talking about that initial buzz back in 2018, right?
There was a whole research paper about it.
And then poof,
Gone.
what happened there?
It's a great example of how science works.
It's a process of constant refinement.
Sometimes what appears to be a groundbreaking discovery turns out to be a false positive.
A blip in the data that initially looks like something more.
And that's exactly what happened with the earlier Barnard's star planet candidate.
As they gathered more data and fine-tuned their techniques, that hint of a planet,
just faded away.
so it was like they thought they had struck gold.
Only to find out it was fool's gold.
Precisely. But here's the thing.
While that initial signal turned out to be a false positive,
It led them down a path that ultimately resulted in the confirmation of Barnard's B.
it goes to show that even in those moments where a hypothesis doesn't pan out,
The pursuit of knowledge can still lead to unexpected and exciting discoveries.
it's like they took a detour and stumbled upon an even more interesting destination.
But speaking of interesting destinations,
There's that other tantalizing detail about Barnard's star.
the possibility of even more planets.
What can you tell us about those potential planetary companions?
Well, while Barnard's B is the only confirmed planet so far,
There are intriguing signals suggesting that there might be at least 3 more planets orbiting that star.
so it's like those to-be-continued cliffhangers they used to put at the end of TV shows.
We're left wanting more.
What are astronomers saying about these potential new worlds?
They're cautiously optimistic.
They're saying these additional signals are promising, but need more observations to determine if they're looking at more planets.
Distinguishing a true planetary signal from background noise from other astronomical objects takes a lot of careful analysis.
It's not easy to pick a familiar voice out of a crowded room, right?
Definitely not.
I can barely hear myself think in a crowded room, let alone pick out specific voices.
That's a good analogy.
Because it highlights why having multiple telescopes and instruments trained on Barnard's star is crucial.
Each observation adds another piece to the puzzle.
And the more data points they can gather,
The clearer the picture becomes.
it's like trying to listen to that voice in the crowded room from different angles and distances.
Eventually, you'll be able to isolate it.
So it's a waiting game,
But an exciting one.
especially considering what this all could mean in the grand scheme of things.
It's like we're on the cusp of discovering a whole new planetary system, right in our cosmic backyard.
And remember, this is just one star in a galaxy teeming with billions upon billions of stars.
The possibilities for what else might be out there are truly awe-inspiring.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't it?
Here we are caught up in our day-to-day lives.
But when we take a step back and consider the vastness of space and the potential for other worlds,
It makes you realize how much more there is to discover.
it's like that feeling of standing on the edge of the unknown, right?
Knowing that every new discovery is a step further into uncharted territory.
And the best part is,
When it comes to Barnard's star.
we're just getting started.
Exactly.
We've confirmed one planet.
Barnard's B.
A world that seems determined to make a short year work for it.
3-day year.
What would your work week even look like on that planet?
But you're right.
This is likely just the tip of the iceberg.
We've got those other intriguing signals that could mean even more planets are hanging out in this system.
It really makes you wonder what other secrets Barnard's star might be hiding.
For decades, it's been this object of fascination.
A cosmic question mark just waiting to be deciphered.
And now?
It's giving us a glimpse into just how diverse planetary systems can be.
And this is where things really start to hit home for me.
It's easy to get caught up in those Earth-centric viewpoints.
Thinking about planets needing to be just like ours to support life.
But then we see a place like Barnard's B.
Scorching hot.
A year that's over before you know it.
And it makes you realize how much more we have to learn about what habitable even means on a cosmic scale.
You're hitting on a crucial point.
This idea of challenging our assumptions.
We tend to define life based on what we know here on Earth.
But what if life on other planets has adapted to conditions we haven't even considered?
Extreme temperature,
Different atmospheric compositions.
even variations in the types of stars that can support life-bearing planets.
It's a bit like how we used to think nothing could live in the deepest parts of the ocean because it was too dark and too cold.
And then, bam!
We discover these incredible creatures thriving in hydrothermal vents.
Who's to say we won't find the cosmic equivalent around Barnard's star?
Or any other star for that matter.
Exactly.
This is why the ongoing study of Barnard's star
And red dwarf systems in general.
is so important.
Each piece of data we gather has the potential to completely upend our understanding of planetary formation, habitability, and the potential for life beyond Earth.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Barnard star system, what is the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from this?
I think the most important takeaway is this.
Science is a journey of continuous discovery.
Full of twists
Turns
and unexpected detours.
every new finding,
Every confirmed planet
every tantalizing signal.
opens up even more questions and pushes us to expand the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
I don't know.
The next big breakthrough in the search for life beyond Earth might be just around the corner.
Waiting to surprise us.
What a thought to end on.
The cosmos is chock full of mysteries, waiting to be unraveled, and it seems like Barnard's star is ready to keep us on our toes for years to come.
This has been The Deep Dive.
We'll catch you on the flip side for our next cosmic adventure.